on Flashpoints in collaboration with Randy Credico's Live on the Fly, coming to you from the edge of the Hudson, where liberty is still trying to hold on the line. An exclusive interview with noted Italian reporter and WikiLeaks partner Stefania Maurizi. I'm Dennis Bernstein with Randy Credico. All this straight ahead on Flashpoints. Stay tuned. And you're listening to Flashpoints on Pacifica Radio. My name is Dennis Bernstein. I'm here in Berkeley, California with Randy Credico in New York, looking at that beautiful river and the Statue of Liberty. Welcome, Randy, and welcome our special guest.
Hey, it's great to be on, and thank you, Dennis, and hello, Stefania.
Thank you to Dennis and Randy. I'm here. Here we have more than 40 degrees, but all is well.
All right. Well, that's terrific. I just want to say something about your background, and then I'm going to turn it over to Randy. We're going to go back and forth here, but you are now reporting for the daily La Repubblica as an investigative journalist. You have worked extensively on WikiLeaks releases of secret documents and partnered with Glenn Greenwald to reveal the Snowden files about Italy. You have also interviewed A.Q. Khan, the father of the Pakistani atomic bomb, and have done a lot of other work. But we are delighted to have you in this context of WikiLeaks and in Randy's very extraordinary story. Again, Dennis Bernstein here in Berkeley, California, and Randy Credico in New York.
Okay. Hey, Stefania, it's great to have you, or to talk to you again. It's been since May 2nd, the last time we spoke, and we spoke about a lot back then, but there's been a lot of new developments, particularly this event that's taken place in London with the second-tier UK court, and then again on the 22nd of September. Can you tell us the nature of this legal endeavor?
Of course, Randy and Dennis. So you have to realize that I have spent the last 2 years struggling to access the documents on the Julian Assange case. It has been a real hell to get access to these documents, and I was forced to go to the court and file and sue the UK government because they rejected any requests and they refused to handle me any documents. So finally I decided to go to the court, and this is the first time that a reporter go to the court in order to get access to the file. No newspaper, no journalist has ever done this, and this tells you a lot about the state of our journalism in these days, because if you consider that dozens of newspapers have partnered with WikiLeaks and Julian Assange throughout the last 10 years, and yet no one tried to obtain the full access to these documents about this case. So I'm forced to go to the court because they rejected any request, and I hope I will be able to win this case and get full access to the documents about this incredible situation, because here we have a high-profile publisher confined in a very tiny embassy, arbitrarily detained by 2 of the most well-respected Western democracies, Sweden and the United Kingdom, and no one tried to get access to these documents. It is incredible to me. So I hope we will win the case, and the important thing is I hope I will be able to argue in favor of the public interest to access these documents.
Well, I plan to be there for that second-tier, first-tier event on September 1st. Are any other newspapers in London writing amicus briefs on your behalf?
Honestly, I don't know. No one asked me to report on this case, probably because I can imagine there is some kind of embarrassment. Of course, there are many things happening in these days, so I can imagine reporters are busy with all sorts of tragedies and stories and high-profile cases, so I can understand they have a lot of things to work on. But at the same time, I can imagine there is also some embarrassment about the fact that no newspaper, no reporter asked for these documents, and no reporter went to the court to fight for these documents.
What kind of information do you expect to be in the documents? What kinds of things are you looking for? What could be the case in terms of freeing Julian Assange?
Yeah, that's a very good and important question, because I have clear ideas about the documents I want to access. First of all, I want to access the full correspondence between the UK authorities and the Swedish prosecutors, because in 2015 I filed a Freedom of Information Access request, and I obtained some documents by the Swedish authorities, and the Swedish authorities documents made clear beyond any doubt that the UK authorities put pressure. The UK authority advised the Swedish authorities in order not to question Mr. Assange in London, as Julian Assange and his lawyer had requested, but rather to extradite him in Sweden, which is the reason why we ended up in this legal quagmire with Julian Assange under arbitrary detention for 5 years in the Ecuadorian embassy, because Julian Assange never ever refused the questioning. He fought against extradition because he was convinced that the extradition in Sweden would result in extradition into the U.S. probably. So the UK authorities put pressure and advised the Swedish prosecutor against questioning him in London. And questioning him in London would have avoided this legal quagmire, would have avoided this arbitrary detention. So it will be important to have these kind of documents. I know for certain, and no one has this information, I know for certain there are thousands and thousands of documents about this aspect, and I want to access these documents. I want to access any document about the exchange between the U.S. authorities and the UK authorities, because it is reasonable to believe that there are some documents about this exchange, and I want to access any documents about the correspondence between the UK and Ecuador. I want to access these thousands of documents about the whole case, because I think there is a strong public interest to shed light on this important and high-profile case. Can you imagine an editor, a high-profile editor in Europe under arbitrary detention? Can you imagine Le Monde or La Repubblica or El País editor arbitrarily detained in a capital, in a European capital, and no one asking for the documents about this case? I'm sure you cannot imagine. But that is the case with Julian Assange.
Dennis Bernstein here with Randy Credico. I think you wanted to follow up, get a little background on the WikiLeaks dossier, that very special book, Randy.
Yes, the book WikiLeaks dossier, which is in Italian. Can you tell us what that book is all about? When did you start writing it?
Well, basically that book is based on my access throughout 2009, 2010, and 2011 to the WikiLeaks documents about the Afghan wars and Iraq wars, and also the U.S. diplomacy cables and the Guantanamo files. So throughout the 3 years in 2009, 10, 11, I studied. I worked in depth on these documents. I read something like 13,000 pages of U.S. diplomacy cables about Italy, and not only about Italy, but also about other countries. And I basically wrote I tried to tell my readers what were the most important revelations coming from these documents. So, for example, I acquired some solid documents and information about how the U.S. tried to to stop the Italian prosecutors investigating on the extraordinary rendition of the Abu Omar, the Milan cleric Abu Omar, how they the U.S. authorities try to put pressure on the Italian government to buy the Lockheed Martin fighter JSF, how they try to stop the International Criminal Court, and things like that. All the important things coming out from these important and secret documents, which many reporters throughout their lives hope to get access to. And for the first time, thanks to WikiLeaks, I was able to access. And I really really appreciate and really agree with the WikiLeaks philosophy, with the WikiLeaks publication strategy. They basically make these documents available exclusively to some media partners like me and other partners, but after a limited exclusivity, they make these documents fully available for everyone, for even for the layman, even for activists, even for lawyers, for whoever wants to access to this kind of information. I really appreciate this because I think the information needs to be free and accessible to everyone without any restrictions and any access. Of course, there are documents which are secret and which need to remain secret, like, for example, documents about the security of nuclear weapons or nuclear power plants. But these documents are different. These secrets are different secrets, are secrets which are used by countries like the U.S. or like other countries to protect themselves from inquiry, to protect themselves from investigation by prosecutors, to protect themselves from embarrassment. So this secret is less legitimate than the real secrecy we need to protect, like the secrecy you need to preserve the security of nuclear weapons or nuclear power plants.
Dennis Bernstein here with Randy Credico in New York. For the last 6 months, WikiLeaks has been publishing a series of documents on the CIA, which they entitled Vault 7, which you have covered extensively. Could you talk about, spend a few minutes talking about the significance of what you're calling Vault 7?
Yeah. Basically, Vault 7 consists of documents about the CIA's other weapons, the weapons they use to penetrate our computers, our phones, our mobile devices, and so on. So for the first time, we got an insight about this kind of weapons, which we had no idea about what kind of tools they could have. We could imagine, of course, that they had this kind of tools, but for the first time we were provided solid documents, solid information about these tools. So it was quite interesting. Of course, these documents have a technical nature, so many people. So we try, while covering and investigating these documents, we try to make them accessible to the general public by using very accessible explanations and information in order to make this understandable to the general public, because they are highly technical. But it was really important to have an insight on these tools and in understanding what they can do, what they cannot do. I mean, they have no magic wands. They have no wonder weapons, as far as we could see in this database. They have interesting, smart solutions. They have some impressive tools, but they have no magic wand. So it was really interesting to access these documents, and it was difficult to verify these documents, but it was also important to do that. We did it. At the end of the day, we verified the documents as genuine, and we covered them by making them accessible to the general public.
So WikiLeaks, in all of this time, since you started covering them in 2009, has yet to publish something that has been contradicted, gainsaid, or found to be untrue. But you still when you look at their publications, you go through it to verify everything.
We verify.
Perfect
we try
record.
to verify everything. It's very tough. Of course, there is a limit. There are documents that you can verify. There are documents that you cannot verify. So far, we were able to verify documents, especially technical documents. You go to expert, trusted expert. You check whether procedure makes sense. You check whether software makes sense. You check other classification marks. You check a lot of things. I don't want to go into details on how we verify documents, because if I go into these details, I provide insight to those who want to provide us fake documents in order to compromise our work. But the tough part of this kind of work is to verify documents, to understand whether they are genuine or whether they are not genuine. I can tell you that I got, throughout my last 8 years of work in partnership with WikiLeaks, I got legal cases. So I went to the court for legal cases, and I won the case. So I was able to verify that the documents were genuine and my coverage had been correct, and I won the case. That's a really important thing, because many people who attack WikiLeaks say, oh, these documents are not verified. They are just not falsified. So you don't know whether they are true or whether they are false. I can say, no, they are true, because we verify them. I can tell you that whenever we publish, we work on documents and we publish stories based on these documents. We verify them because we get libel case, and we are able to win these libel cases in court.
You've been following Julian Assange and WikiLeaks and covering them for the last 8 years. What drove you in that direction?
Well, basically, you have to realize that, first of all, my background, because before journalism, I got a degree in mathematics. So it was one of my sources in cryptography who put WikiLeaks on my radar screen in 2008, when very few people and very few journalists even knew about WikiLeaks. So my high-profile source in the cryptography field told me, you should have a look on that bunch of lunatics. He was joking about WikiLeaks, but he thought the WikiLeaks work was interesting and worthwhile to follow. So at that point, in 2008, I immediately started following their work. And in 2009, they contacted me. They had an important document about Italy. They asked me for help in verifying the authenticity of these documents. So that was the first time we partnered together in 2009, and since then I started working on all the documents in the team of journalists working with them. I'm the only one who has worked on all the releases, so I'm the veteran who has seen all the releases. What made me very interested in this work? First of all, you get access to documents you cannot get access to normally. I mean, I come from a country where we had massacres like Piazza Fontana, or we had the Bologna massacre. We had all sorts of massacres due to the strategy of tension. And 60 years after these massacres, families want the truth. Families go to the court hoping for new information, new court cases, and I see how they cannot get any truth. They cannot get any documents, any genuine information. So I think it's really important to get access to unauthorized disclosure of secret documents like CIA documents, NSA documents, U.S. Department documents. There is no other way to have access to these documents. I mean, unless you have a national security reporter who is close to this source and the other source, but in any case you have a tiny, very restricted access to some of the documents documents. Most of the time you don't even have access to real documents. You just have some information, some background information. In this case, with WikiLeaks, we got access to this. We had this unprecedented access to this kind of documents, and I think it's really, really important because if you take entities like intelligence agencies, like the CIA or the NSA, I mean, these people there is no accountability when it comes to this agency. There is no accountability, no serious oversight. So you need unauthorized disclosures on these matters because they want to live in darkness. They want to operate in darkness. And what we have to do is to fight this darkness.
You're listening to the voice of Stefania Maurizi. This is a special broadcast, a collaboration between Flashpoints in the San Francisco Bay Area and Randy Credico's Live on the Fly. He's in New York City. I'm in Berkeley. I'm Dennis Bernstein at the moment, and we're speaking to a significant, somebody who's worked very closely with Julian Assange, and of course Randy Credico has presented this to you in a series called Countdown to Freedom, Julian Assange. What I want to ask you now, Ms. Maurizi, and if you could please explain this, has your recent interview with Julian Assange been distorted by The Guardian, The Washington Post, across the social media to sort of manufacture this pro-Trump agenda from the WikiLeaks founder? Because that is not what you could say in terms of Julian Assange. I don't think you'd agree that that would be a proper characterization as a pro-Trump operative.
Well, I think it was... Thank you for this question, and I think basically thanks to Glenn Greenwald we were able to expose how these high-profile media, international media, distorted my interviews with Julian Assange, putting in his mouth things he had never ever said, told me, and completely distorting, manipulating that interview. And it took Glenn Greenwald to expose this because no one had tried to do it, and I was protesting on the social network, of course, because it was during the Christmas holiday, so editors and colleagues were at home and everybody was busy with Christmas celebration. So I was protesting over the social network on Twitter and say, this is not what he said. He never ever said that. He never ever said this. And no one was paying attention to me. No one was. They were focused on their own interpretation and distortion, and no one wanted to hearing from me. And finally, Glenn Greenwald exposed the whole matter, and The Guardian was forced to amend the article, and that was really important for me and for, of course, for Julian Assange and for people who had witnessed this situation. And I mean,
maybe you could expand this response to talk about how this attack on you, this attempt to broad brush Julian Assange and to mischaracterize this interview. Maybe you could say something about the political realities, how this throws a spotlight on the political realities faced by Assange now under detention.
Yes, I mean, they have, I was there since the beginning, so I have seen all sorts of attacks on Julian Assange as soon as he exposed the U.S. diplomacy cables, and even after the Afghan war logs, the war against Julian Assange and WikiLeaks started immediately with the high-profile reporters and international media repeating, just parroting what the Pentagon was saying, oh, they have blood in their hands because they exposed informants, Afghan informants, to death because they revealed their names and identities. So they immediately started parroting what the Pentagon was saying. And when the U.S. Department started saying their campaign, saying they're putting sources, people talking to our diplomats at risk, once again the newspaper were listening to the State Department. They were not listening to facts and what was happening. So I have witnessed this deadly campaign against Julian Assange in person and against WikiLeaks. And I have seen how they started immediately saying he's a Russian agent, just because he didn't reveal documents of Russia. But how can he reveal documents of Russia unless he gets these documents? I mean, it is really important to understand that WikiLeaks doesn't publish articles, doesn't publish tips or rumors or things like that. They publish documents. So reporters can cover whatever they want. They can write on whatever matter they want, but they cannot publish a document unless they have that document. So they are crucifying Julian Assange for not publishing documents from Russia. I can tell you, I have seen Julian Assange working throughout the last 8 years, and I have seen his staff. Basically, sometimes I'm on a daily contact with his staff, so I have an insight on how they work. I have an insight on the rationale behind the publication work. And I can tell you they are obsessed about publishing. They would publish whatever they get. No matter what they get, they publish. And they take the hit and publish. So I have seen this campaign to delegitimize WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, say they are Russian because they didn't publish anything about Russia, so they are Russian agents. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. And of course it is a campaign which is very useful and important for the U.S. for the U.S. government, and it's really important when it comes to the CIA and to the NSA, because Dennis, there is no way they will kill Julian Assange. I don't think this is possible, but they can certainly destroy his reputation. That's really important, because when it comes to journalism and media and publication, reputation is everything. It's our currency. So if they are able to destroy his reputation, and the WikiLeaks reputation is done, I mean, they are done. They don't need anything else. They don't need the drone. They don't need a killer.
We are talking with Stefania Maurizi of La Repubblica, Dennis Bernstein in the Bay Area in Berkeley. I'm Randy Credico, live on the fly in New York. Stefania, with all of its power and might, the U.S. and its allies, with all of that, why are they so obsessed with a little individual like Julian Assange?
Well, I mean, you have to realize these are two very powerful countries which have all sorts of vassals and supporters and people admiring them. Here you have a person who basically was able to hit them very hard and to expose their secrets, their most precious secrets. I can imagine they are upset. I mean, I can imagine and here you have an organization exposing the true face of Afghan wars, Iraq wars, beyond any propaganda, with documents, with facts, with numbers, and with actual interceptions of leaders when it comes to the NSA. So it is clear that they are upset about this. Never before they had this publication, these revelations on their secret documents, of their most important secrets. Can you imagine the impact of NSA interception of Berlusconi and the French presidents and the Japan authorities. I can imagine they were furious. They promised, they wanted to kill him. Of course, they cannot kill him. We are in Europe. They cannot go there and drone Julian Assange. So all they can do is to destroy, to smash his reputation, which is what they are doing since the beginning, basically, helped by some prominent newspapers and reporters.
Right. Not only have they been smearing him, but some reporters have called for his assassination. Journalists, what do you say about journalists that call for the assassination of Julian Assange?
Well, I'm shocked. I mean, I don't think we are dealing with journalists. These are, I have no words for them. I mean, it's unacceptable, of course. It is incredible, but I have seen all sorts of things when it comes to WikiLeaks, and so I'm not surprised at all. I have seen this poisonous campaign against WikiLeaks, and whatever they do, if they publish, that's a problem because they publish. If they don't publish, that's a problem because they don't publish. If they redact documents, that's a problem. If they don't redact documents, it's a problem. So whatever they do, they get attacked for one reason or another. So I have seen all sorts of techniques used against WikiLeaks and Julian Assange.
Well, we're running out of time here, and Dennis Bernstein with Randy Credico. What do you think is the most crucial issue here? Why, let me ask you this way, why do you think it's so important in this time in history with all that's going on that Julian Assange be freed from this kind of imprisonment and to be able to do the work and expand the work he's been doing? What's at the core? What does it mean?
It means freedom of access to crucial information for our democracy. I mean, if you consider Afghanistan, we are there since 2001. What do we know about the Afghan war? We know how many lines can you read every day about this war, or Iraq, or even the NSA? I mean, it took Edward Snowden to expose the NSA because before that revelation we knew very, very little, and what we knew was quite approximative, and we had no documents and things like that. So, I mean, this kind of information is crucial for our democracy. Unauthorized disclosures are crucial both in democracies and in regimes. So I think it is crucial for our democracy to have access to this kind of information, which WikiLeaks is making available. And they are taking huge legal and extra-legal risk in order to bring this information out.
We have one more question here. Your response, and we play this a lot, Dennis and I, to the working group on arbitrary detention and their determination that Julian Assange is being arbitrarily detained. He is a political prisoner, and he must be released and compensated for all of this, for these phony charges. What is your response to the fact that the Brits have yet to comply with this UN working group on arbitrary detention's finding?
Well, I mean, I think it is sending a terrible message to other countries which have serious high-profile cases of people under arbitrary detention. What can the UK say to Iran or to other rogue nations when they put editors or journalists or activists or political activists and human rights activists under arbitrary detention? It's clear that Iran or other rogue nations will say you can't afford to say anything because you have a high-profile editor under arbitrary detention in London. So how you dare to say anything to us? I mean, Randy, we have high-profile mafia bosses who enjoy 1 hour outdoor per day, like Salvatore Regina, a killer, a monster who killed dozens of people. But Julian Assange cannot access 1 hour outdoor per day. I mean, it's incredible to me that no one has anything to say about this.
All right. Well, I'm Dennis Bernstein. That's Randy Credico. We thank you very much for joining us. And would you like to say goodbye, Randy?
Yes.
We thank you for this interview. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Stefania.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you to our listeners.
All right. And thank you. You're listening to a special edition, a collaboration between Live on the Fly. That's Randy Credico's show coming out of New York City. And I'm the producer of the Flashpoints show on Pacifica Radio. Well, we're going to take a short musical break, and we're going to be back with more. Dennis Bernstein with Randy Credico. Stand by.
Alla mattina, appena alzata, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, 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 alla mattina. Risaia mi tocca andare e fra gli insetti e le zanzare, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, 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 e fra gli insetti mamma mia, oh che tormento, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, 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 oh, mamma mia, oh che tormento, io ti invoco ogni domani. Io ti invoco.